welcome back again. This is the final dumpling in our series. Today we're making Bánh Bột Lọc from Vietnam, just like me, I'm from Vietnam. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make the filling first. So I lied to you guys all those times before where I said you had to make the dough first because the dough needs to rest, and then while the dough's resting you make the filling. We're actually gonna make the filling first today because the filling is cooked, and then you want the filling to cool down while you're making the dough. And the dough that we're making today doesn't need to rest because it's just tapioca flour, and tapioca flour doesn't have gluten. So any gluten-free doughs, you don't actually need to rest because there's no gluten formation in them. So to start off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to finely chop a shallot. Most Vietnamese recipes start off with the shallot if you're going to be sauteing, because we don't really use, well, there's onions and in Vietnam, but mostly it's shallots to start off with as our allium aromatic. But you can definitely use a red onion or just a yellow onion if you want, but traditional shallot. Okay, so we're just going to finally dice this up. I'm going to saute off my diced shallots. Just some neutral oil in the pan. Just gonna let that heat up a little bit. All right, so our oil's heating up. We're gonna throw our diced shallots in there. So we're just looking to sweat these down before we add in finely chopped garlic. You actually don't want your pan to be sizzling, screaming hot for this, because we don't want to burn the onions or the shallots. We're just looking for them to soften and develop some flavor. So you usually don't want to add garlic and onions in the same time as the pan. Onions have a higher moisture content than garlic does. So usually if you add them at the same time, your garlic tends to burn, not always. So I can smell my shallots now. They sweat down a little bit. We're gonna add in our finely chopped garlic. About 2 cloves. So I'm making a super classic filling for our Bánh Bột Lọc today. I'm doing pork belly, which I have finely diced already. I've diced my pork belly here into about 1 centimeter cubes. I want it pretty fine. And then I also have some shrimp here that's also been roughly chopped. Peeled and deveined, of course. So it's about 1.5 cups of each ingredient. So 1.5 cups of pork belly. If you're looking for, less fat, if you're not a big fan of like the chewiness and gristle of pork belly, you can definitely use pork shoulder as well, but also finely diced up to about 1 centimeter cubes. As soon as you can smell that garlic, you can add in your pork belly. I've seen recipes where they add shrimp and pork in at the same time, but as we know, shrimp takes very, very little time to cook, and pork belly can take quite a bit of cooking. So with our shrimp, our 1 cup of roughly chopped shrimp, we want the pork belly to be fully cooked first before we add the shrimp in. So Bánh Bột Lọc was actually the first dumpling that I learned how to make. Whenever people ask me, they're like, who taught you how to make dumplings? I said I'm self-taught, but technically that's a lie because I was taught Bánh Bột Lọc from my mom. I used to make it with her as a kid. Well, all the other dumplings, that's where I'm self-taught, but someone did teach me a dumpling from a young age. All right, so our pork belly there is cooked through. You see no more pink in the pan. We're gonna add in our shrimp. And the shrimp cooks super, super quickly, right? And And you notice we haven't seasoned yet, except for the garlic and the shallots. So I'm gonna season now. So I have paprika here. Paprika, ground paprika, just for the color. Usually the signature color for the filling of Bánh Bột Lọc is really orange, and it's from paprika, as well as annatto. So this is just annatto powder, really bright and vibrant colors. And the lifeblood of Vietnamese cooking, fish sauce. Instead of using salt, I'm going to be adding fish sauce here. Just be careful not adding too much because it's pure liquid salt. But lots of flavor in there as well, obviously. And of course, sugar. Southeast Asian cooking is really well balanced with sugar. Increase the heat a little bit just because the shrimp added a lot of moisture to the pan. Last little bit of seasoning here is just black pepper. Just looking to reduce off that moisture in the pan. Don't want to overdo it with the cooking, so I'm just going to go ahead and turn off the heat. We're going to taste this filling for seasoning, and then we're going to allow it to cool down. To me, that's really nicely seasoned. Quite salty, quite sweet. Maybe a bit more pepper. And the rest of our paprika. All right, so our filling is made and cooling down. So while that's happening, we're gonna make our dough. So the dough is a little bit different. It's kind of similar to the hagao dough that we made where you need boiling water, but this is just 100% tapioca flour. It's 300 grams, and we're gonna add 300 grams of boiling water. It has to be boiling water, okay? Okay, so I have my scale out, so I know I've reached 300. So it's 100% hydration dough, and it's tapioca flour. Sometimes I buy the package, and even though it says tapioca, it's not tapioca. You can tell because when I'm pouring hot water, it becomes clear right away. So I know this is tapioca flour. About a little bit more. There you go. So that's our 300 grams of boiling water. Obviously, don't put your hands in here. It's very, very hot. So we're just going to use a little spatula. We're going to mix everything together. So the boiling water starts to cook the tapioca flour right away. So you're just going to be mixing this with the spatula until it cools down. And then we'll turn it out onto our counter. Make sure I get everything out. You may have to wait a little bit because obviously it's very, very hot. But I have dead hands somewhat. So I'm just going to begin kneading. It's pretty spicy, hot. Bench paper. Bench paper is your friend. Always have some tapioca starch on standby. This bag's 400 grams, so we'll only use 300, just so in case you need extra for sprinkling, because it gets sticky. You can introduce a little bit more tapioca flour to it. And you just knead it like a regular dough. Just want it really well mixed. And just like the other doughs, we can't overwork them. This is my favorite dumpling, by the way. I love eating these dumplings. The texture isn't for everyone because tapioca flour, if you've never had tapioca dough before, it's extremely chewy. And it becomes slightly clear when it's cooked. See, right now it's solid white. I just want to continue kneading until I feel that the ball of dough is nice and smooth. All right, so I'm pretty happy with this ball of dough. It's slightly tacky, so that means before we divide this up, we just might need a little bit of flour, just so we can divide up our dough. We are gonna hand roll this. So I'm gonna divide this up into 3 pieces, maybe 4, because that middle piece is a little bit big. We're gonna roll it to logs. So cover the pieces of dough that you aren't working with. And we're basically ready to start making our Bánh Bột Lọc. No resting period for the dough, it's not necessary. My pet peeve is when people make Bánh Bột Lọc too big. To me, the perfect size is like bite-sized pieces. Like they absorb so much water when they're cooked, so they like almost double up in size. So you don't want them to be very big. Rather have little ones. So I'm just dividing my dough log into smaller pieces here. All right, we have everything we need to start making our Bánh Bột Lọc now. We have our dough, we have our filling. If you find that your filling was too liquidy, there was too much extra, just strain out the extra juices at the bottom. Otherwise, it's just gonna be harder for you to make Bánh Bột Lọc. Okay, so with one of our little nuggets that we made from our dough rope, we're gonna flatten it. And you're just gonna roll it out. You're aiming for a slight oval. All right, so this is about the thickness that you're going for and the shape you're going for. It's not perfect circle, slightly oval in shape, right? So we're gonna take some of our filling, put it in the center. Don't go too crazy because it's just gonna be harder for you to fold. And the dough is hard to work with and we individually have to roll out each ball, but this is where it's easy. We just roll it out like a pierogi, that's it. So half moon, make sure to pinch tightly. What I always tell people is the only bad dumpling you can make is a dumpling that isn't properly sealed, and that's the only bad dumpling. So you're looking for super simple, right? Just a half moon, tightly sealed. And we're just gonna continue that until we have all of our Bánh Bột Lọc made. Alright, so one of the components for the Bánh Bột Lọc is this green onion oil that you make. So it serves 2 purposes. It flavors your Bánh Bột Lọc as well as it provides the oil so your Bánh Bột Lọc doesn't all stick together in one clump. So I just have canola oil right here heating up, and I have thinly sliced green onions. You want to focus mainly on the greens, but you can definitely throw some of the whites in there, no problem. You're looking to heat up your oil to about 350 degrees Fahrenheit at least. You just want it almost to the smoke point. So yeah, this is crazy hot. So what we're gonna do, obviously in a heat-safe bowl, I have about 1.5 cups of green onions, and this is about 1/3 cup of oil. And I'm gonna slowly pour this over my green onion, and it's gonna sizzle. So pour it in slowly, just don't dump it in all at once, otherwise you're gonna make a big, dangerous mess. All right, and that's it. That's how you make that green scallion oil, super simple. Cool, so the other component that we need to make for our Bánh Bột Lọc is the Nuoc Cham, which is prepared fish sauce for our dumplings here. So I have 2 cloves of garlic here and 2 bird's eye chili. These are actually frozen because I bought a pack a while ago, didn't use them, they're gonna go bad, so you could freeze them and just thaw them out. So cloves of garlic here, I'm gonna finally chop up. Finely chopped enough for me. Put it in my deli cup. We're going to finely slice up our bird's-eye chili. Throw that in there. Sugar. And fish sauce, I never measure because you're going to taste and adjust as necessary, but I've been making this for like 20 something years now, so I'm pretty good at eyeballing. And your fish sauce. So right now we have our garlic, our chilies, our sugar in here, our fish sauce. Then you want to water this down because it's way too salty on its own, so I'm going to add some water. And then now we have to add an acid. So lime is usually our acid of choice here. I've seen some people use vinegar in a pinch if they don't have fresh limes on hand. Have my nice Mexican elbow. I'm gonna use this to squeeze all our lime juice. So at this point we have all of our ingredients there, but we may just have to adjust those quantity of ingredients to our taste. So make sure you stir it up really well before you give it a taste. Make sure all that sugar is dissolved. So if you like really sweet fish sauce, then obviously add more sugar. Let's say you added too much sugar, what do? You would just add more lime juice to cancel out that sweetness. If it's too salty for you, you add more water. If it's not salty enough, you add more fish sauce. So there's no such thing as like throwing this away. You would just adjust it to make it taste good. And keep adding ingredients to it to get it to that sweet point. I think we got it in one go. Again, I've made this multiple times before, so I'm pretty good at eyeballing my ingredients now, but if you need to adjust, do so. You may have to taste it a couple more times to make it perfect, and that's okay. Alright, so we are just waiting for our water to come to a rolling boil before we throw our Bánh Bột Lọc in. It's almost there. Alright, we got a boil going. I'm going to throw in our Bánh Bột Lọc. As always, just give it a gentle stir so you make sure that they're not fusing together or fusing to the bottom of your pot. Otherwise, they'll tear when you try to remove them. So I want to cook them until they are kind of see-through. And when I remove them from the water, they'll become more see-through. So we're not looking for the filling to be cooked here because the filling's already fully cooked, right? We're looking to fully cook that, that wrapper, that tapioca wrapper. So it can actually take some cooking. So if you're worried that it's not cooked enough, just let it hang out for a bit in there. So again, floating is not the designation for fully cooked food. So whenever you go to eat hot pot, especially if it's ground meat, or like, you know, sometimes they have wontons there, just leave it in there for a little bit longer. Especially sometimes they're frozen when you grab them from the buffet. Leave it a little bit longer in there, otherwise you might get sick a little bit later. Alright, so I'm pretty happy with the cook of this Bánh Bột Lọc. As you can see that it went from solid white and it's slightly opaque now. I'm going to remove them from the water. We're going to let them hang out in our plate. And as they sit, you'll see that they start to become more translucent. So as soon as you remove them from the boiling water, it's really important to hit them with that scallion oil that you made earlier. Otherwise, you let them sit for like a minute or two like this, they're gonna clump together, and that's not what you want. So, all right, and before I hit it with the fish sauce, I just want it to sit a little bit just to show you that they become a little bit more clear as they hang out outside of the water. I don't know the science behind that though. I just know that it happens. All right, so you can see the shrimp, the filling, the pork in there now that's been sitting for a little bit. So yeah, that's the tapioca dough. It becomes translucent when it's cooked. All right, so You can just serve your Bánh Bột Lọc just like this, or you can put the sauce over top. Because sometimes people just like the sauce on the side to dip. I like it over top because as it sits, it absorbs that delicious fish sauce that you created. It's better when things are sauced already. But you do you. You like to have dippy action, then put this fish sauce on the side and you can dip in as you go. So time to dig in. I actually just came back from Vietnam and I got these cool little metal spoons, so I'm really excited to put them. So I want to get the sauce in there, right? Because that's like half the dish. Got a little pepper, green onion. Okay, that's too much chilies. So good. My favorite dumpling dish, hands down. Out of all the dumplings in the world, this is my dumpling. Just so happens to be the dumpling that I learned how to make dumplings with. All right, guys, that brings us to the end of our dumpling journey together. Hopefully we'll pop up soon with another adventure. Bye.